Sean Diddy Combs, a new documentary out. Diddy, the making of a bad boy on Peacock. And, there's a lot of documentaries on Diddy right now. This one drops a lot. It really does not disappoint in terms of documentaries. It's not just rehashing old information. Lots of new people coming out and talking about all sorts of things as they look back in the life of Diddy and, what exactly made the bad boy, exactly what it says. Joining me to discuss, Shavaun Scott, psychotherapist and author. This is an interesting one because it's not just he did this, he did that. We're all shocked. That's what we understand. But I always say, what's in the recipe? What made this person who
Yeah.
they are? People like Diddy don't often just kind of be like this. There's some reason, there's something in there that drove him in those directions. And we'll talk about some of that, including watching some clips from that documentary. A point that's made in there initially talking about his childhood is a very unconventional childhood. His father was murdered at a very young age. His mom fell into some money after that, and he lived a very privileged life. Ended up joining a gang of some sort, though, but was always kind of the outsider. While living that life with his mom, Janice, the allegations in the film are kind of shocking. It's talking about sex parties and people, kind of living the life that Sean still did. What's your reaction to that and the kind of trauma and the kind of things that would happen to someone when you're exposed to that sort of a lifestyle as a norm at such a young age?
There aren't a ton of hard and fast rules about childhood and raising kids because we've all got different family cultures and all of that. But one of the things that always stands is children learn what they live.
Mhm.
And so I think we've known intuitively that there had to be some pretty dark stuff in his history.
Mhm.
He did not grow up in a normal way, or he wouldn't have turned out to be the psychopathic, narcissistic, dark triad individual that he is.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising, even though the extent of, what's in the documentary is shocking. In other ways, it's like when you line it all up as a puzzle, it makes perfect sense.
And it should be noted, Puffy or Diddy is denying all this. His mom is denying any of these accusations, but these are coming from childhood friends. People like one of them even like lived with Diddy. They had tenants in their uh, lower section of their home, and they were friends. They kind of were raised like brothers, and he's coming out and saying this stuff. Let's take a look at some of those accusations made in the new documentary on Peacock. Diddy making of the bad boy. Let's take a look.
Because Sean had no dad, all he had was his mom. Sean's house, our house, there was always things going on. On the weekend, you partied in the house, and we did that a lot. He was around all type of alcohol. He was around reefer smoke. He was around drug addicts, around lesbians, around homosexuals. He was around pimps and pushers. That was just who was in our house. People that attended the parties were from Harlem and from the streets.
I wasn't at the Janice Combs parties, but some things I heard. She had like a little crew of chicks that would come around and, she made sure everybody was comfortable.
At night, it wouldn't be a thing to mistakenly walk into one of the bedrooms and you got a couple in there butt naked. That's what we were privy to. This is what we were fed. Was it desensitizing us? I'm sure it was. Were we aware of it? No. That was just Saturday night.
If you grow up in a very sexualized environment, that's going to shape their sexual template in terms of what are appropriate boundaries, what's acceptable. And when you have a lot of unresolved trauma, the trauma doesn't go away just because you have all that access to wealth and power and no guardrails. The trauma is there and it's still unresolved. And you just have more resources to do more damage with.
Very, very true. What's your reaction to
Yeah, I would term it developmental disruption.
that? Mhm.
Perhaps it's traumatic to have developmental disruption, but I think so often we think of trauma as people beating their kids or berating their kids. And with developmental disruption, it's when the course of how we develop our internal self, our personality, it doesn't go in a healthy way. It goes in this aberrant way, which is, I think, what produces his sense that he's so special, which goes back throughout his entire history. The guy has this huge ego and thinks he can get away with anything. And when you live in a family culture where you don't have normal structure and normal support, I mean, that's a recipe for somebody who turns out to be a sex offender. So it all makes perfect sense.
What's interesting in developmental disruption, that's an interesting term because I think sometimes, this it sounds like, I mean, if these allegations are true, I mean, it's abuse to raise a child in a household where
Yeah.
that sort of lifestyle is going on. Again, all allegations, but if that is true, it's a different kind of abuse because it's an
Yeah.
abuse that while that child is living it, they're not seeing it as wrong. They're
Right.
enjoying this life.
Right.
At least it seems like this in this case, the people did, the kids did, thinking, "Oh, this is norm. Mom's having these parties. This is fun. This is great. I'm seeing this. I'm seeing that." And when you're, a early teen boy or something, and there's girls around that are half naked, you're gonna enjoy that. But you're
Sure.
not realizing your exposure at that time to a life like that and what that must do to one's psyche, especially at that time. We This was an age there wasn't internet pornography. If you wanted to see
Right.
that, you had to like sneak your dad's Playboy or something.
Yeah.
So or I guess in this case, if these allegations are true, go into the bedroom when mom's having a party.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really like the term sexual template because that is wired early in life. When we talk about serial killers, these sexually motivated crimes, that stuff starts in their thinking,
Mhm.
in their development when they're 8, 9, 10 years old. And so it's very difficult for them going forward in life to have any sense of what's normal and to have the ability to connect sexual behavior with emotion, with empathy, with compassion, with what we would call love. It's like sex is completely divorced
Yeah.
from that. And people are objects that they use. And so this is a template that's persistent throughout their lives.
It feels like it could have gone either way for Diddy. Had he not had the money and the wealth in a young age and then
Yeah.
fell into what I shouldn't say fall into, he was a very talented music producer. I mean, his talent in that area is undeniable. Doesn't make him a good person, but he certainly has talent there. And he used that and his drive, drove him to the top, but it still doesn't make him a good person. When you have that sort of drive and those sort of things around you, and this is what you think is norm, he could have easily gone into being a pimp or something, had the money and the wealth and all
Yeah.
those things not happen if that's the way you want to treat someone. It probably would have ended a very bad downfall early on in life, probably be dead by now. But because he had the money and the wealth and the power, he was able to kind of continue on this bizarre way of living from childhood and really just continue it forward.
Yeah, 100%. He had power.
Mhm.
And when you have a malevolent personality with that kind of money and power, yeah, this all lines up. It's very scary.
Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Be sure to follow us wherever you download podcasts, and especially Apple Podcasts, where you can get advanced episode and premium content on our premium channel right there. Also, be sure to follow us on social media so you don't miss any breaking updates on the stories that matter to you most. We're on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. Just search Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Bruschi, and you'll find us right there. Again, thanks for watching.